Thanks for joining us. Talkline Network Radio, America's longest-running Jewish broadcast network, the voice of the Jewish community. Welcome to the podcast. This episode of our podcast, some of the greatest and most influential minds in our field. You're listening to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast on the air since 1981.
And we're back. Everybody is so upset about the tragic killing, the assassination of Chabad Rabbi Zvi Kogan. Rabbi Yehuda Sarna joins us as senior religious advisor, former Chief Rabbi of the Moses Ben Maimon Synagogue in Abu Dhabi, UAE, executive director of the Prophet Center's Jewish Life at NYU. He's a member of the Council of European Rabbis, Rabbinical Council of America, International Rabbinic Fellowship, and he also led the campaign to build an Eruv in Lower Manhattan. He's certainly been in UAE for over 15 years, very much knowledgeable, a good friend of Rabbi Zvi Kogan of blessed memory. So thank you for joining us.
It's an honor to be here.
And thank you. So tell us about Rabbi Zvi Kogan, because from what I understand, he was a wonderful person, very giving, and you knew him personally because you worked with him.
I would say even more than giving. I mean, he really stood out as one of the most kind-hearted people that I've ever met. Countless people would tell me that in his house for Shabbos, he and his wife Rivki had an open home, and people found there exactly what they were looking for. You know, a sense of belonging, a sense of community. He was he was a curious person. You know, he loved connecting to other people, and an infectious smile. I mean, he just, you know, all those pictures that you see of him now, that's the way he was all the time. It's a big smile. It's such a loss for the community and for the Jewish people.
Now, do we know, and I know that you're connected to what exactly happened, why was he targeting? Are they targeting Chabad? I'm talking about the Iranian terrorists. Is Chabad, because I know people, the irony is he's related to Rabbi Holtzberg, who also was assassinated in a terrorism incident a number of years ago. So is Chabad a target of these terrorists as far as you can tell? What are you hearing?
I really don't know yet, and I don't think we'll know until the interrogation of the three suspects are complete. What we do know is that there is an elevated threat for Israelis, for Jewish institutions, and you know, both as a badge of pride, but also with the increased concern. You know, Chabad are visible, and the institutions are very warm and embracing, which sometimes makes them also more vulnerable. And so, you know, people have asked me, you know, is it safe to be in the UAE? And I tell people, yes, it still is, you know, one of the safest places on earth for a Jew to be. And that's why, frankly, many people have ended up there, because they have moved from the UK, they've moved from France, they moved from Belgium. Some of them moved from here because of the safety. And this was a very, very unfortunate incident. What has brought people reassurance is that it really only took a day or two in order for the UAE to figure out who did it and arrest them.
You had a major hand in building the Jewish community in UAE over the last 15 years. You see an explosion. There was a period of time you had about 30,000 Israelis used to fly there to UAE. What I'm hearing from people, though, they're nervous when they hear what happened. They're saying they don't want to go. And I believe even Passover last year was a less of a season. Used to be a lot of Passover programs in UAE. That's been cut down significantly because of the tensions in the Middle East with Hamas and Hezbollah. This, I think, is going to hurt even more, at least from what I'm hearing. You know better, so tell me.
Look, the purpose of terrorism is not just to hurt one person, but it's to hurt many people. To hurt many people by making them afraid and by disrupting their normal life, by making them constantly, as they walk down the street, look over their shoulder because they don't know who's lurking, to make them concerned about letting their kids go out and play. That's the way terrorism functions. So yes, a natural reaction that I've seen in the community is to be more afraid. But I have to tell you and your listeners that as much as there is fear in the short term, there is real confidence in the leadership of the country, in the security apparatus of the country, that this is going to be a safe place. It will continue to be a safe place for Jewish people and for Israelis. I mean, look, we can't be under any illusions. The state of Israel is at war with not one, not two, up to 7 different, countries or groups of people.
Let's go. We have to make it 8 now with the ICC.
And we really, and I don't have to tell you and your listeners about, violence against Jews in the United States of America, in Canada, in the UK, virtually all over. So we are in a different environment. We feel like we don't want to retrench. We don't want to pull out of places. We don't want to. We don't want those who are trying to make us afraid. We don't want to let them win. And so we shouldn't change the places where we are, but we do need to change how we are. We do need to be more mindful about safety and security, and so I do agree with you. I think in the short term, there are going to be fewer tourists visiting. That's natural, but I have a lot of confidence in the direction that the country is going. That what we saw shortly after the Abraham Accords were signed, like you referenced, tons of people coming in, vibrant Jewish life. That's where we're headed. That's the long-term trajectory. Just today, it's very powerful to hear the head shliach, Rabbi Levi Duchman, in his eulogy for Tzvi. He said that he's committed to building a base Tzvi, a building in memory of Tzvi Kogan. And I don't even know if it's related, but Jared Kushner announced on Twitter that he was going to be giving $1 million to support Chabad at UAE. Talk about brotherly love. His brother Josh gets on Twitter right afterwards, says that he and Carly are going to do the same thing. And I think the purpose of this is really to get things back on track. Where we were headed was an incredible place. The war is a setback. This attack is a setback, but we can be on track.
Now, the war, how you can give us more of intimate information? How has that affected travel to the UAE? What numbers? Because I know it was robust before October 7th. It's obviously shrank quite a bit. Has it come back at all, or has it been stagnant over the last year?
There still definitely are Jewish tourists, Israeli tourists. I don't know if you've been in Ben Gurion Airport recently, but when you look at all the flights that are listed, a good number of them go through Dubai or Abu Dhabi. It still is a major way that Israelis travel, not just to get to Dubai or Abu Dhabi, but to get from there to other places. Of course, not as high as it was. We'll just need to. My prediction is that once the war ends, and we might be on the cusp of at least part of the war ending, the one with Hezbollah, hopefully, we'll see a ceasefire soon. But once the war ends, I think we will see the incremental resumption of where we were. Look, you have to look at the fundamentals. Okay, the fundamentals are all the same. That is, the UAE and Israel, Bahrain, they have a vision for an integrated region, which is peaceful, which is prosperous. Israel's innovation economy, the UAE's scale-up economy, each one has something that the other doesn't. It's a match made in heaven, and the fundamentals have not changed. It's going to be complicated for a while, but that's the way the region is going.
Now, do you know of any attempts by the government to bolster security? Do you know of any reaching out by the government to Israel or Jewish groups in light of what happened today and also during the past year?
Just yesterday, I received a beautiful note from someone named Dr. Ali Al-Nuaimi, senior member of the government. He's visited Israel before, and he sent a note to me as well as to some others in the Jewish community to make sure that it got around and that members of the Jewish community know how much the UAE cares. Yusuf Al-Otaiba, the ambassador to the United States, also sent a beautiful message making it clear that the attack that happened was not just an attack on the Jewish people, it was an attack on the UAE values. And so we are seeing that message come across very clearly.
Because there have been reports, by the way, prior to this killing, where there were reports in the media that Iranian agents were looking to target Jews or Israelis in the UAE. It was foiled, obviously, by the UAE security. but there have been attempts before, and you can imagine that Iran is looking to do it again. So that's the question that many people are going to have.
Yeah, they're right to ask the question. I don't know the answer to that. I think there might be security experts you could bring on who would. I know that the feeling there is among the Jewish community since October 7th, and this is true both of residents, it's true also of tourists. People are lower profile about their Jewish identity. Myself, when I used to come in 2010, I would always walk around with yarmulke, my tzitzis out, as I would here in the streets of Manhattan. Since October 7th, I've been a little bit more careful. I would wear a baseball cap, wear my tzitzis in when I'm in public, as a precaution. Now, none of us could have anticipated that this attack would happen. It's a nightmare. It's a tragedy, and we do hope that in time, once the wars are over, that we'll be able to resume where we were. But there's no question that we've had to be lower profile since October 7th.
Rabbi Yehuda Sarna is our guest, senior religious advisor, former Chief Rabbi of the Moses Ben Maimon Synagogue in UAE, and we're looking at the assassination of Rabbi Zvi Kogan by, seems to be, Iranian agents. Let me ask you this question. You built up 15 years of Jewish life, and you've seen it grow, which it was doing a great job until October 7th. What was it like, or what is it like to be in UAE, Jewishly, religiously? Give us a description, because people who have not been there may be curious to know about that.
Well, I would say the main attractions for people to move, for Jewish people to move to the UAE is, number one, the economy is very strong. Number two is the safety. It is a very safe place. I was once dropping off my rental car in the airport. I had my bags with me, and I asked someone if they could just watch my bags while I return the car. And the person said to me, says, I don't need to stand here and watch your bags. You can leave them here, come back tomorrow, come back in 5 days, come back in 2 weeks. The bags will still be here. So it is true. I mean, this is a rare incident, and safety is a great. So look, as of now, I would say there are between 3,000 to 5,000 Jews who are living in the UAE. Hard to know exactly, but around that number, I would say 70–80% are in Dubai, and the balance are in Abu Dhabi. In Dubai, there's 4 neighborhoods where on any Shabbos you can find a minyan. In Abu Dhabi, there's the Moses Ben Maimon Synagogue, which is a magnificent, huge shul. It has a mikvah. It has a residence for the rabbi. It has a base medrash. It's amazing. And the Moses Ben Maimon Synagogue is part of a complex called the Abrahamic Family House, where literally over 100,000 people visit every single year, most of whom, safe to say, have never been to a shul before. And so it is a huge Kiddush Hashem. And Abu Dhabi, there's also a Chabad minyan that meets. In each place, there's kosher options, both in Abu Dhabi and Dubai, more in Dubai. And the educational opportunities for kids are still building. Rabbi Levi and Rav Tzvi, Alav Shalom were a major part in that. And they deserve a tremendous amount of credit for Jewish life as it's been built up.
So you talking about Chabad. I'm curious on Rabbi Zvi Kogan's Chabad house. So how large was it? You've mentioned 100,000 visitors that went through all the Chabad houses in the UAE?
No, sorry.
In Abrahamic Circle, okay.
Abrahamic family has 100,000, most of whom were not, vast majority of whom were not Jewish, right? And I don't have the exact numbers of how many people have come through the Chabad houses, but I'm sure it's many. But there's no question. It's one of the things that makes it such a special place is that from there, Jewish people are able to interact with all kinds of people from throughout the Arab world that we would otherwise not have an opportunity to meet. I was just at a conference last week. I was in Abu Dhabi at a conference with religious leaders from throughout the Arab world, Maronite priests from Lebanon, some Shia leaders from different places. And so it's an amazing place of convening. And it is true that there we are the very few among the many, but the opportunity to make a Kiddush Hashem is tremendous.
And of course, business has been a major component. You have a lot of businesses that are investing in UAE, and UAE investing with Jewish investors, whether it's Israel, the United States. There's a lot of that taking place. And I would assume that's continuing despite what happened over the last year.
I don't have the exact numbers on trade, but from the numbers that I've seen, it seems like trade has continued.
How old is the Jewish community in UAE? Because for a long time, there were no Jews in some countries like Saudi Arabia, UAE. So give us an idea of when did it begin?
There have been some Jewish people living there for the past 30 years. Not many, but some, 30, 35 years. But the community as a community, people coming together on a regular basis for services, for holiday celebrations, that really started 2006, 2007. My first trip there was in 2010 when NYU was in the process of building NYU Abu Dhabi before it opened. And at NYU Abu Dhabi, I saw there were some Jewish professors, a few Jewish students, not many, but a few. And they began celebrating Chagim, on their own. When I would come, I'd organize a Shabbos dinner in Dubai. By 2016, there was already a regular Shabbos minyan meeting in different people's homes. 2017, there was a villa which was rented for the purpose of being a shul, but it was very quiet. There was no social media, no flags, no Magen David out front. It was very low profile. And it was really only in 2019 that the existence of this community became public. The UAE in 2019 announced that it was going to have a year of tolerance, which for them means, religious pluralism. And as part of this year, they wanted to highlight all the different diverse communities, including the Jewish community that have grown up. For them, for the Emiratis, it's a badge of honor to be able to have a tent that's wide enough that so many different kinds of people can feel at home.
Now I'm curious, your synagogue, the Moses Ben Maimon Synagogue with Chabad House, or any other shuls in UAE, are they visually identifiable when you walk down the street? You can see it, or is it hidden and you just have to know what the location is?
The only one that you can tell is a shul is the Moses Ben Maimon Synagogue. It has a huge pillar right next to it with a big menorah that's visible during the day. It's lit up at night. And so that is very clearly a shul, but besides for that, no, the places where people meet for davening are not, they weren't built initially for that purpose. Maybe they're rented for that purpose, but they weren't built as a shul.
What about kosher restaurants? Also visibly identifiable? You have to know where to go.
They are not, they have the name out front. So the Rimon supermarket, which is a kosher supermarket, that had the name out front. No, you'd look online to find out where they are.
I just wonder from a security perspective, because some places, like in Morocco, you can find even, kosher stores where it has a kosher name on it, but Morocco is different than, I guess, than UAE.
I'm sure after this incident, even precautions which had not been taken previously are now being taken. We'll just have to see where it goes. But I have a lot of confidence that despite the fear that we're experiencing in the short term, there's going to be a very strong building back.
No, I can see that.
In Zvi's memory. Anybody who he touched was really so inspired by him.
How many years was he in the UAE?
He was there for 4 years, really, since
4 years.
As soon as the Abraham Accords were signed. He's related through his brother and through marriage to Rabbi Levi Dachman, the Chabad Shliach. And so soon after the Abraham Accords were signed, a team joined Rabbi Levi on the ground to help build up the infrastructure for Jewish life, and they've done a phenomenal job.
I can imagine. How often do you have to go?
I usually go but every other month, and I spend in total usually about between 1 to 3 months there. It depends on the year.
Wow. Now, is the government going to be doing any, when I started asking before, any outreach, let's say any marketing, saying whether it's in Israel, United States, say promoting and saying UAE is a great place for Jews to go in light of what happened, it may not be a bad idea. So I was wondering if there was anything as far as you can tell.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think the government is going to do it. I think Jewish people are going to do it. Like you look at what Jared and Josh Kushner just did. That's the kind of thing we're talking about. They're Jewish people who've had such built relationships with individuals there. They know the score, right? They know that this was it was an attack on a Jewish person, but it was also an attack on a country, and we're in this together.
Now, there were some reports when Rabbi Zvi was first killed that they say that he also has Moldovan citizenship. So some people were upset that the report that came out from the UAE, at least initially, didn't identify him as an Israeli or a Jew, but as a Moldovan. So some people say, well, they're hiding the fact that he's Israeli. I'm sure you heard that too.
I mean, I don't think there's any way to hide the fact that he was Israeli. I think he entered on a Moldovan passport. But what upset me is that he was killed. I mean, let's right size. We need to right size our negative emotions. We're upset at the people who killed him. We're upset at the people who sent the people who killed him. We don't know who that is yet, but we have a lot of trust in the government of the UAE, the leadership, that they will figure that out.
And they move pretty quickly. I understand there are lots of cameras. Perhaps one of the places around the world with the most cameras, so they're able to see things a lot faster than other places. Correct?
Let's hope, but I don't have access to those cameras. I don't think you do either. But
no, but I'm just saying what's reported in the media. They have lots of cameras, which helps.
Security is tight, and it's a safe place. That's right. It's not a safe place for people who are breaking the law. Those people will be brought to justice, like the killers of Rav Zvi.
But I think the Israeli government does have an advisory for Israelis to go to UAE.
There is an advisory. I don't know how many other countries that advisory applies to. I believe it's not an insignificant amount. Israelis traveling outside of Israel need to be alert. Israelis inside Israel also need to be alert.
I think Jews got to be alert no matter where they are.
We are living in a different moment than we were before October 7th, 2023. So again, I'm not a believer in pulling back and acting out of fear. So it's not about where we go, but it's about how we go. Where we go in the world, we need to take precautions.
Well, absolutely. Any closing thoughts you'd like to share with our audience?
I just hope and pray that Zvi's that the kind of inspiration and smiles that Zvi brought to everybody who he met, and I mean everybody, Jewish, Muslim, resident, tourist, family member, someone he'll never see again in his life, really the smile and inspiration that he brought to them, may that only continue. Yehi Zichro Baruch.
Amen, amen. And what's nice is that the leadership in UAE has a good relationship with Chabad. Some places you have tension between the chief rabbis and the Chabad, but in UAE everybody seems to be getting along so nicely, which I think is testament to you and to the community.
Baruch Hashem.
Rabbi Yehuda Sarna, thank you. The chief rabbi, former chief rabbi, the senior rabbi, and advisor to the Moses Ben Maimon Synagogue in UAE. Thank you for being part of our show.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Talkline with Zev Brenner, America's premier Jewish broadcast, the pulse beat of the Jewish community.
For continuous Jewish programs, TalklineNetwork.com, or our 24-hour-a-day listen line at 641-741-0389. For past shows, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, Instagram, and all major podcast platforms, or jewishpodcast.org. Thanks for listening to the TalklineNetwork.com.
On Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.